Hello friends, thank you for joining me today. My name is Diane and we are going to be creating natural textures and color matching in oil pastel. So get your oil pastels together and let's get hopping. So before we get into the drawing, I'm going to just walk you through the materials you'll need. You will need a set of oil pastels. I have a largish sort of set. You don't need one that big, but it's nice to have one this big for sure because you don't have to do as much color mixing to get the colors you want. Even bigger, better, really. The more colors you have, the better. You'll need a piece of paper that's suitable for oil pastel, a pencil, an eraser, and you'll need a printout of this image. You'll see the information below so you can pause it and write it down. This is a painting by Jean-Baptiste Armand Guillemot. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I apologize if I butchered it. It is called Midi Landscape, painted in 1898, oil on canvas. So have all these things ready to go, and then we're just going to do a section of tree with the little strip of land here and part of the ocean and sky. So just a little bit, and the purpose of this is just practicing some different landscape textures, leaves, water, rock, sky, and trying to match the colors really well in oil pastel. So you could start by just lightly drawing approximately a loose sort of outline for the edge of the tree. And then this little strip of land that sticks out here, just sort of copying it, eyeballing it, not making it very specific. And this little rock down here we can do, and that'll be sort of the ocean. And then the horizon line just sort of skirts right over the top of that little part. So just draw that as best you can. We don't need the pencil and eraser anymore. And we're going to start by putting a layer of white down over the entire sky and ocean. So if you've used your oil pastels before, which I have, they're probably dirty from the last time you used them. So just rub it on a scratch paper or side of your page to get it clean. And then color horizontally with light pressure over the entire part of the sky that you want to color. So I'm just going to go a little ways up here and into the water. And it's totally fine to get some white into that strip of land or into the tree or into this rock. Just basically cover the ocean and the sky because those are very light. So we want a layer of white to inform and help lighten the colors that we put on top of it. But don't press hard, because if you're pressing hard, you're creating a waxy buildup already that will make it difficult to layer other colors over. So then we're going to just take one color at a time and kind of put it in. Make sure it's clean again. I had some green on my yellow, and color where you see it. So in the sky, it's definitely pretty much everywhere, but very much in the middle, coming down towards the horizon, it gets a little pinker. So I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom, and I'm not pressing hard. Again, it's going to look really crumbly. That's fine, because we're going to go back and blend it. Same thing in the water. I'm just going to kind of pull lines out, planting my pastel, and pull out to the side, coloring very horizontally because that is the direction the water and the sky are taking in this image. And that's usually the direction they take in any image. Not always, but usually. So then I'm going to switch to my light pink and put that in the bottom of the sky. As you can see, that shows up much better than the yellow does, so I'm putting in very little all along the bottom, and then just sort of streak it into the sky a bit. A little bit randomly, but sort of copying what I see. I'm going to put a few streaks of that into the water as well, just to get a presence of it there. And I'm doing the sky and the ocean first, by the way, because they are the most light things in this picture, and I want to get those handled first. So I'm going to put some, even though this color is way too dark for this green, we're putting it into light colors. So as long as we press lightly, this is a really good match for the green in the ocean. It's probably a hint not blue enough for the green, but we can put a little bit of blue over it if we feel we need to later. So I'm just putting that where I see the green. Something like that. And some bluey purples in the water too down here. Now I'm pressing a little harder. because I'm kind of competing with some of the green I just put in. And this is too blue, so I'm going to have to put some actual purple over it. There's also this reflection of the rock in the water that's more purpley blue, so I'm going to put some blue right underneath it and then get some purple over the top. And I'm just blending those two colors together by putting one down and then the other. And in this case, the blue and the purple are similar in value, or lightness and darkness. So it didn't matter which one I put down first, but if you're ever blending colors, it's usually a good idea to put the light one down first because it's not dominant, and then put a little of the darker one over the top, and then go back and blend. So by blend, I mean take a lighter color. In this case, I'm using white, and I'm just coloring over all of the lighter colors. I'm not coloring into the purple blue yet because those will smear a lot if I do, but these lighter greens and the pinks and yellows and stuff, I can pretty much color pretty hard over, and they'll just marry. They'll just kind of come together. Now I'm going to go back and do the blues and purples a little more carefully. So I'm just doing kind of single strokes over those areas so that they don't smear out too much. All right, so that's decent for the water. Oh, you know what? I didn't do the sky. That's decent for the water. Now I'm going to go back and blend the sky. And for that, I can really just press hard with the white and go side to side. There's really nothing to avoid there. But that will soften the pinks and yellows into one another really well. And then in the middle, I want it brighter, so I'm going to use my fingernail, scrape off some color. You can also use a coin for this, or a plastic knife or something with a sharp, hard edge. And then I'm going to put more white in, and that will give me space to make it brighter right there. So I'm pretty happy with that. I can always go back later, but I'm going to get into the land now. So for that, I'm going to use a really bright reddish orange as my main color and color it in pretty solid. Trying to find a corner of the pastel. These are round, so it's harder to find a corner, but I'm kind of rotating it as I go to see if I can find kind of a sharper edge. Same color down here, really solid. Just, that's very dominantly that color. And then on this, well, actually on both of them, I'm going to scrape some to get those lighter parts off. And this is sort of random. I'm kind of using that as a guide, but not entirely. Wipe the crumbs off. Try not to wipe too hard because they will smear into your other colors. Just sort of lightly rub them off, or you can blow them off. And then I'm going to use a lighter peach color and go over those light areas that I just scraped off to get them to look finished. Generally, you don't want to leave just the scraped area showing because it will look a little, if you look closely, it looks a little unfinished. And then I'm going to also put some purple into this rock. Oh, it's not showing up, so I have to scrape. And then there, see how well that shows up when I scrape. The oil pastel can kind of adhere better there. I'm also going to get a little more purple present at the very base of this hill in that shadow spanning the underside of the island. And I'm going to take a brighter pink now and dab that in under the purple, because that's what's going on here, is it really gets brighter as it goes out into the water. All right, so I'm pretty happy with the land. And actually the green is a little too dark there, so I'm just going to go back and put some more yellow over it and see if that helps a little. Kind of. I'm being careful not to trying not to touch the top edge of the red so that I don't smear it into the water too much. That worked okay, but I think a little bit more white would be even better. There we go. So I'm pressing really hard now to get the white to lighten that green. Crumbs, get rid of the crumbs. Okay, now we'll go on to the tree. So for that, we'll start with some white just in the light areas of the tree. And again, this does not have to be that specific. I just want white to kind of protect some of these clumps from getting too dark as I put the darks in. But unlike what I did in the sky where I was pressing light, now I'm pressing hard because these are going to be really clumpy. So I actually want the color to clump. I don't want it to go on all light and delicate like I did in the sky and the ocean. And now I'm going to take my green and put light green into those areas. And what I'm doing is just defining the shapes of these clumps by doing this. So I'm not trying to be too thorough about it. I'll go back into this and blend and add more colors. That's my lights. And then for my darks, I'm going to press pretty hard, kind of going almost everywhere else except those clumps, but also being mindful of the direction. You don't want to just color it in because it'll just look like a solid wall of green. So start from the very beginning when you start putting these in, these strokes and leaves, just notice the direction they're going. Over here, it's kind of sideways. Over the tops of these clumps, it's more vertical. And there's definitely blues and oranges and all sorts of stuff in there. So I'm leaving plenty of paper showing too to allow room for other colors. This is just a rudimentary roadmap, sort of where the leaves go. So something like that. Then let's go back and fill in some more colors. So I'll go in with a blue because there's a lot of blue in here, and color over some greens as well as add blue to some areas that don't have it yet. Again, pressing pretty hard to get it to show up well. And now that you have your roadmap, you know where the lights and darks are, it gets a little easier to know where to put everything. And it's still very approximate. And I'm going to get some orange in there. Looks like this dark orange is the ticket for that. Not very much, just a few little dabs and suggestions of it here and there, but I'm picking the lighter areas to put it so that it shows. Because if I tried to put it over green or blue, it would just look muddy or like nothing at all. Okay, take a second to appreciate how that looks nothing like this, or very little. So don't worry, we are going somewhere. We're going to build it up and make it look bushy and tree-like. So let's take the white again and first blend into our lighter areas. And that'll help us to know if we need more green or not. I definitely need more green. But I'm coloring in the direction of the leaves. There we go. And then I need a little bit more of a green color. So I'm going to, oh, actually I'm going to grab a lighter green this time and color lightly into those areas. And this is too yellow of a green, but I don't have a bluer one. So I'm using the yellow one to just get it greener. And then I'm going to grab a turquoise and go over it so that it makes it bluer. Makes those parts bluer. And now I'm starting to lose definition of those lights a little bit. So I'm just going to scrape the very tips of those clumps to give them a little bit more presence. And then I'll use the white again and see if that can be adequate to blend. If not, I may need to add more green again. So you can see it's really a process of layering in oil pastel. We are going to use a little bit of black, even though I don't typically like to use black because I feel like it deadens things. But in this case, just don't have anything that will get darker than these greens and blues. So I'm going to put a little bit of black in where I want the darkest darks. And you can see already that creates definition around this clump here. And then if it seems too black, I can always go back with more blue or green over the top and make it look more blue or green and less black, but still dark. So I'm just adding some dabs where I want to really darken. And you can tell where you want it darker because it's usually right next to the lighter part. That's what helps the lighter part to really pop out and stand out. So something like that, and that's where I'm starting to see a lot more definition, a lot more tree-like bushy texture. So now I'm going to take my green and go back over those blacks, not only to make them look less dead, more green, less black, but also to smear them a little bit into the surrounding areas. And then I'm going to just look around and see, is there any white paper showing through? And there is, so I'm just sort of dabbing over that to make sure it's all hidden. And then let's go back. I'd never actually finished the island. We need to put a little bit of brown at the base there. So I'm going to use this darker brown and sort of dab a line across the bottom edge. Oh, you know what else would work well right there is green, because green is the opposite of red. Sorry, I guess it might be a little late to show you this, but if you put the complementary color of a color into it, they neutralize each other. So if you put red into green, here I'll show you along the side. Here's some red, put green into it, not a lot. I'm not pressing hard with the green, but it neutralizes the green and makes it look like just a red shadow, especially if you go back and blend it with red, then it just looks like kind of a dark, dark red, or it could take the place of that brown. And that's what I wish I had done now, but I didn't think of it until now, so sorry. But I can use it from this point forward. So I'm just sort of dabbing the green into the base of the red to make it a little more defined. And now just take a look around. Anything else you want to do, go for it. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this exercise, emphasis on exercise. It is not a finished piece, just a little experiment to help you learn how to replicate some landscape textures and match colors in oil pastels. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate and review the class so others can find it. And if you want more, please subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more on there, and there is a lot more to come. So thank you again for joining me today, and have a beautiful rest of your day.